Hey, what's up everyone? Sorry for the delay in getting this next video out. It was a really busy spring. But we're back to working on this boat, and in this video, we're going to be tackling the floors. I'm not super proud of the work in this video. It was my first time doing it, but I learned a lot and I thought I would share it with you. So in this video, you're going to get 5 things that I learned or experienced while getting these floors done. And so there was some damage that was done around the passenger floor. I was able to see and learn pretty quickly that on this floor you had wood as a base and then a thick layer of fiberglass that was sitting on top of that. Decided to go ahead and cut that out and replace it all over that passenger and driver section. I began to cut it out with the reciprocating saw and learned really quickly that a reciprocating saw and fiberglass vibrate. That doesn't cut well, it doesn't go really well together. Then I realized rather than trying to cut both out at the same time, remove the layer of fiberglass and then you can take the wood out. I decided to buy this cutting tool here that attaches to my oscillating Dremel. It's pretty powerful. This way I can make a nice outline of exactly where I want to cut this floor out. What are you doing? What are you doing? So here was the biggest surprise I came across. It turns out this boat is not made with wood covered by fiberglass. There is just a big kind of 4 by 5 foot section of wood where most of the traffic and weight is going to be. The rest of it, the fiberglass is just sitting over marine foam. So these pieces of wood came out pretty easily. They just been through a little bit too much over, the 30 plus years that this boat's been around. Alright, so here's what I gotta tell you. And this is gonna probably bother some people. I'm not replacing these stringers. If you know people that work on old boats, you're gonna find a couple of different camps. And one camp I definitely know are the stringer people. Dude, you gotta replace the stringers no matter what, man. I fix up boats on a budget. The amount of money that goes into replacing all of that wood, all of that fiberglass, pulling the engine out. That is a lot of work, a lot of time, and a lot of money. And on this boat, it's just not going to be worth it to me. I did a lot of tap checks on these stringers. They seem really solid. The guy I bought the boat from out of Kentucky, he restores old Nautiques himself. He just had an extra third one that he didn't want over the winter. That's why I picked this one up. He had said the same thing. He had no intention of replacing the stringers. He felt like they were solid. I feel like they're solid. So you go ahead and put what you want in the comments, but I'm not replacing these stringers. Now, with that being said, the next step for me is to get the fiberglass that's in the boat cleaned up. There's a lot of glue and carpet that's still stuck to it from where I ripped it off, and it's really rough. So I use a pretty rough tool here, a big wire brush on a grinder, and just make a couple of passes over it, and it really smooths it out and gets most of the gunk off. This is certainly a dirty, messy job. It's not fun, but it's necessary. Got this all cleaned up, and now it's time to get some marine grade plywood in here. Picking up my marine grade plywood. I almost bought it a few months ago before I took a break. Thought, nah, I don't want to store it or something happened to it. It's $50 more than it was 3 months ago. Stupid pandemic. Man, that's not what I wanted to pay. Now I am gonna add some fiberglass over those stringers in the floor that I took out in the driver area. This is gonna just make sure that they are extra waterproofed if they're not right now, and strengthen them up even more. All right, we're gonna get started on some fiberglass work to strengthen up the stringers in a couple spots. We've got your pretty standard kit of fiberglass tools. And then this brand of marine epoxy resin is what I ordered. Came with a couple of stirring sticks, came with a couple of spreaders like that. Then we have the resin and hardener. I probably should have ordered more. I thought I'd see how far this would go and then order a little bit more, but with this wonderful inflation problem that we have going, this right here is already about $30 more than it was when I ordered it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, so after putting the epoxy resin over that first stringer, I cut out and put my dry piece of fiberglass where I wanted it to go, and then went ahead and added the resin over that to put it to fiberglass it in, and it was really tricky to do. So the second time I did it a little bit differently. This leads me to number one. First thing I learned is go ahead and wet down your fiberglass with your epoxy resin before you put the fiberglass where you want it to go. It'll feel like wet paper, but that fiberglass with the resin in it, you can fold it, you can bend it, you can do whatever you want with it, but it's easy to transfer it already wet into place and then smooth it out. Believe it or not, I even had a tough time getting the resin spread out over the fiberglass here. You would think it'd be easy, but I think I was just kind of sliding it and pushing it around a little bit too quickly. With this tool right here, it would start to grab the strands of fiberglass and kind of pull them out and make it a little bit rough and sloppy. After some practice and doing it enough times, what I learned was go really slow and just let that fiberglass soak up that resin as you're pushing it through. Yeah, so with the fiberglass already soaked in resin, it's a lot easier to just put it in place. It's much stickier. These stringers right here already had resin on them that I put on before that was a little bit tacky. I took the fiberglass back down to the bottom of the boat just to make sure that everything was watertight. All right, real quick on number two thing that I learned. When working with resin, once you add the hardener, it starts to get hard. You're kind of on a time crunch. I thought this was a little bit stressful. It's not like paint where you can just put some aluminum foil over the top of your paint and come back in an hour or two. This is what I ended up with the first time I tried it. Well, that's a bit of wasted resin. I got what crappy pieces of wood I've got left here from the floor that I'm using as a very simple template. This front piece needed to be routed down a little bit to be able to fit underneath the battery box. This section of marine grade plywood, did a good job cutting it. It actually fit in there really well. And the best feeling I had was putting these screws into those stringers, because this is my evidence I needed that those stringers are in good shape. They grabbed those screws so hard and pulled that plywood very tight, and that was great.
I kind of felt like without the fiberglass piece, which will soak up way more, that this would go a lot further than it's going. But it's not.
Actually, I think it went further than I thought it would. Once you first did it.
Oh, you know so much about fiberglass. I'm so proud of you.
No, after.
I've got the new marine grade plywood in. I've got the resin and hardener layer down. It's somewhat dry, but a little bit tacky. We put in a little bit of foam and shaved that down to be able to lay new fiberglass over the top of this. So let's get ready to do that. It's 50 inches wide. Gonna be cutting it down 71 inches long to go across the boat is what I decided.
Okay, lesson number 3. Take more time than I did to plan out how you're going to be putting this fiberglass down. I went with one big huge sheet. If you're smart enough, you might be able to do that, but you can work in smaller sections of fiberglass. It overlaps very easily. The other problem I had though was I started at the back by the engine and I tried to fiberglass up towards the dashboard. I had nowhere to stand and nowhere to go. So I was also under the time crunch because of the resin, so I kind of freaked out and made a huge mess all over myself. But luckily the fiberglass turned out all right.
What's nice about this fiberglass is I don't need to make exact measurements on it because this is not superficial. This is going to be structural and underneath carpet eventually. I'm taking the fiberglass up the side and just putting it over more fiberglass. So whether I go up 1 or 2 inches or 4 or 5 inches, it doesn't really matter that much. If you're doing fiberglass work that people are going to be seeing, or anything with gel coat, of course, you're going to have to make sure it's perfectly smooth and perfectly cut. But in this case here, errors are not really going to show through. We just want to make sure that this is nice and strong and waterproof.
All right, so here's my number 4 regret, what I learned. number four. This is really just an apology to you guys. When you're filming YouTube videos, wear a shirt that covers your butt crack. I apologize that you have to look at my butt crack. Okay, so after getting multiple layers of fiberglass put down, as well as throughout the rest of this process, I'm ready to share number 5. And you'll get this if you watch any YouTube videos on how to fiberglass from people that know how to fiberglass. They say, like, make sure you cover your whole body, wear a suit, all of this stuff. Yeah, that's true. So what I learned is cover yourself and be prepared to throw away anything that really comes in contact with this resin and fiberglass. I wrecked my shoes. I wrecked 2 pairs of scissors, paintbrush rollers, things you're using to initially spread it out. Whatever you touch, it's done. You get some on your hairy arms. It's not good. It's not like glue that after it dries, you kind of crispy rub it out. It's just there. Not fun. Lastly, we're going to do some sanding on this fiberglass. I'm going to something a little bit more powerful because, as said before, this isn't a fiberglass job that's made to look good. It's going to be covered by carpet. I just want to make sure that there's no bumps or places that fiberglass is sticking up. That's going to make that show through on the actual carpet. I had one interesting spot right here. I really had a hard time getting the fiberglass to bend and fold over nicely, so I went ahead and just took it to the end, and I'm just going to cut right through that fiberglass to make it a smooth finish as it meets that wood. Doing the same thing with the battery box too here in just a second also. Well, if you're still watching this video, thanks for sticking around. This wasn't that much fun, and so far the work on this boat has been the more difficult, not so fun stuff, but I hope you stick around for future episodes. If you're not subscribed, click the button down there because it's about to get really neat. We're going to have carpet coming in. That's one of the next steps. We're going to be doing the outside of the boat, getting some stickers on it. I got a new steering wheel that just came in that'll be putting on there. Upholstery is going to be going in. That's all the fun stuff that really stands out that you see, not this under the surface stuff. Thanks again for watching.